So last season, after 22 games in the Premier League, Liverpool sat on 14 wins in the league. They had 48 points in the table, had scored 61 goals and conceded just 18 in the Premier League after 22 games. If we now compare that to this season so far, where again Liverpool have currently played 22 games, they now only have 10 wins, which means only 35 points, only 38 goals scored and now 28 goals conceded. 10 more than at this stage last season. There are clearly problems for Jurgen Klopp and his Liverpool side, so today we're going to talk about what some of those problems are, and of course some potential solutions. So the first thing that I want to point out, and this is probably good news for Liverpool fans, is that I think the problems are really simple. Yes, Klopp is going through a hard time at the moment, there have been talks of him getting sacked. I think that would be very daft. I think Klopp is the right manager to lead Liverpool forward as long as he is given the ability to rebuild the squad. I think the problems on the pitch are very, very simple. It's probably the backroom staff and the board where the bigger issues lie, but today of course we are going to talk about on the pitch, so let's basically get into it. So one of the biggest issues that Liverpool have faced this season is the amount of injuries. Konate has had spells on the sideline, as has Joel Matip and Virgil van Dijk. Keita in midfield has missed most of the season so far, whilst Thiago has also had injuries. Artemelo at the club on loan this season has barely featured at all, having been injured all season long, and the same goes for Oxlade-Chamberlain as well. Luis Diaz, who impressed in his debut season with Liverpool, has also missed large parts of the season through injury, as well as Diogo Jota. So we can see that straight away, that's going to put Liverpool on the back foot. On top of this, I also think that Liverpool have had a recruitment issue over the past few seasons. Thiago is the only midfielder that they have signed on a permanent deal in the last 3 years, which for me represents a problem, whilst Liverpool have also just spent over £100 million on two forwards in Gakpo and Nunes, who are both very raw, and neither had played a single minute in Europe's top 5 leagues in their career up to this point. All of this put together has led to issues on the pitch, and it's led to a starting 11 which looks something a little bit like this at the moment. So straight away we can see there Klopp has been put on the back foot basically. Lots of injuries to his side, meaning he hasn't been able to field a consistent 11, certainly not with his best players, and then recruitment which for me isn't quite great. I think they need better players in midfield, and I think the forwards, I think they're good signings, I think they will do well. But of course they are raw. There's going to be a period of time where they're not at their best, so Liverpool aren't going to get instant impact. So this has left Klopp, like I said, with a starting 11 which looks something like this. I think it's a decent 11, I think there are clear attributes lacking in the squad. However, I don't think that Jurgen Klopp has helped himself from a tactical point of view. So let's kind of look at what he's done. So down the right hand side, what we have seen from Liverpool this season is Salah playing much wider than what he has in the past. And as a result, this season he averages less shots per 90 minutes than he has in any season in the Premier League with Liverpool in his career. The reason that this has been happening is in an attempt to get Trent Alexander-Arnold, I feel like I butchered the pronunciation there, Trent Alexander-Arnold a bit narrower, because of course we know how good his passing range is, and this has meant that Jordan Henderson in midfield often moves a little bit wider. So first of all, let's talk about the problems with this. The problem 1, Salah is not a wide winger. This isn't his playstyle. He isn't the sort of player that constantly wants to match himself up against a fullback, take on his fullback, get to the byline, put a cross into the box. That isn't Salah's game. That's not how he wants to play. Salah wants to come inside and score goals. We saw him do it so brilliantly last season, the season before that, the season before that. Salah has been such a good goal scorer for Liverpool, so to me it seems a bit odd from Jurgen Klopp to move him out wide, where he simply just isn't as effective. Another issue with this little right side dynamic is that Jordan Henderson just isn't what he once was. He is ageing and this creates a problem. He also isn't particularly creative in the final third. Yes, he does occasionally put a nice cross into the box, but if you're talking about Jordan Henderson being responsible for getting into the final third and creating something, for me he's not the man for the job. And then we have Trent Alexander-Arnold playing this narrower, deeper position where I think his passing is very good. I think his long passing is absolutely incredible, probably the best long passer in the world at the moment. So again, I do understand the thought process behind it. However, what is Trent Alexander-Arnold's best attribute? It's his crossing. He can't cross from this position. Get him wider where he can cross the ball. So again, that's a problem for Liverpool for me. You've got Salah playing out of position. You've got Henderson doing a job which he just isn't up to at the moment at this stage in his career. He can't do it anymore. And then Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is playing decent in possession, but I still don't think you're getting the most out of it. Add to this the problems over on the other side, and the big problem basically, this isn't too tactical, is that Andrew Robertson is having a bad season. And I think that's fair. Liverpool have played at an incredible intensity over the past 5 or 6 seasons. That is going to take a toll on players. So Robertson, I think, has rightly been criticised this season. I don't think he's been good enough, and actually, I think at times he's got away with it a little bit. I think he's been really poor at times, and it's not really been picked up on. However, this isn't something which I'm going to blame Klopp for too much. I think this is just a player out of form, but form is temporary, class is permanent. I would expect him to get better again. However, the other tactical issue I have is in the midfield. What Liverpool have been so good at in recent seasons is using Roberto Firmino as a false nine, who drops deep and creates the midfield overload, which at times has made up for a lack of technical quality in the midfield, because we have often seen Henderson, Fabinho, Wijnaldum in midfield with Firmino up front in the past few seasons. And there isn't tons of technical quality there, so Firmino dropping in creates the overload and helps Liverpool in that way. Now, what we're seeing instead with Gakpo and earlier in the season Darwin Núñez playing there is a player who isn't as complete at doing that. I think Gakpo has the ability and the potential to develop in this area. However, at the moment, I don't think he's very good at dropping in, getting the ball, overloading the midfield. I don't think he's great at that. And then in the box, when the crosses are coming into the box, that isn't his game. He's not a box striker, so Gakpo is not really suiting him. The one player I think at the moment in Liverpool's attack who is playing well is Darwin Núñez. But the problem is, his positioning is very good, athletically he's very good, technically he lets himself down a little bit at times. But the big problem is that he just isn't taking chances. He's getting into the right areas, but he has only scored 6 goals in the Premier League this season from an expected goals of 10.6, which is nowhere near good enough for a Premier League footballer, let alone a Liverpool forward, who cost so much money in the summer. They need more from him. So, for me, those are the main problems in possession. Now, the important thing is, I think they can be solved quite easily. We'll come back onto that later in the video. However, for me, these are the main problems. The right-hand side, the dynamic is just wrong with Alexander-Arnold narrow, Salah wide, Henderson in between. It just doesn't work for me. The Gakpo and Darwin Núñez duo style up top, I don't like it. And then Andrew Robertson just out of form. So those are the problems in possession. Now, as a result of this worse attack, if you ask me, Liverpool have scored 23 less goals than what they had after 22 Premier League games last season. However, the only problem with Liverpool isn't the attack, there's also a defensive problem as well, with 28 goals conceded compared to 18 at this stage last season. So again, there is a problem, and I do think a large part of that comes because of the attacking shape. And let me tell you why. What have we thought about Liverpool the last 5-6 years under Jurgen Klopp? What do we talk about? We talk about counter-pressing. So when the opposition are looking to play out from their own box, what Liverpool have been absolutely brilliant at is getting high up the pitch, being nice and intense, winning the ball back, having a very workmanlike midfield that again wins the ball back nice and high up the pitch. We're not seeing that the same. And again, I think it's a tactical problem. This is where Klopp does get criticised by me a little bit. Because with Salah being wide, initially in possession, it means he's not in these areas to press centre-backs. Gakpo and Darwin Núñez is a recruitment issue. At the moment, they are not good pressing forwards. Could they become that? Absolutely they could, but at the moment they're not. You then have another recruitment issue in the sense that Jordan Henderson, physically, isn't the same fitness level as what he once was, so he struggles to get about the pitch and press as much. Thiago, it's not his style, pressing football. He's not an athletic midfielder that wants to go really press super high and win the ball back. It's not his game. And then also the tactical problem comes from an in-possession issue. So you know how we were talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold moving narrower? The problem is that this gives Liverpool a worse rest defence. So when Jordan Henderson in seasons gone by was in this midfield position, it meant that Liverpool, say with someone like Wijnaldum in midfield here, could pounce nice and quick, win the ball back, and that sets Liverpool forward. The problem they now have is that Trent Alexander-Arnold is in this area. And for me, he just isn't as good as counter-pressing as what someone like Jordan Henderson is. So this is causing a massive problem for Liverpool, because what it means is that they can't put pressure on the ball in the way that they have before, which now means the defence, which looked so solid for so many years, is now being exploited. And this is where it is a tactical issue with the press, because the defence is doing what it's always done. The back four is playing very similar to how it always has. The weaknesses have always been the same. Liverpool push their fullbacks forward, so what does this mean? You leave gaps in behind your fullbacks, where the opposition can counter-attack. In the past, that has kind of been nullified by the fact that Liverpool put so much pressure on the ball, you can't hit those areas. But now, with Liverpool not getting pressure on the ball, with Darwin Núñez and Gakpo for me not being good enough at it at the moment, Mo Salah playing too wide, from a tactical point of view, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Thiago not representing that bite that you need in midfield, Henderson and Fabinho lacking the legs, Liverpool are getting exposed. Now, as a result of this, the centre-backs for Liverpool are being put under so much more pressure than what they have in previous seasons. And I think Virgil van Dijk in particular is a player that is really suffering from that. He's getting a lot of criticism this season, and to an extent, rightly so. I don't think he has been good enough. However, he hasn't been helped by the structure in front of him. Liverpool are far too open, leaving someone like Virgil van Dijk exposed, which means he's doing twice the amount of defending, which, in my opinion, doubles the chances of making a mistake. It's kind of obvious maths. However, he also hasn't been helped by the fact that Liverpool just haven't had a consistent pair at centre-back all season because of injuries. So again, if we refer just to the Premier League, Van Dijk and Gomez has been Liverpool's main pair this season, playing 10 of the 22 games. We've also seen Matip and Virgil van Dijk play 5 games together, Van Dijk and Phillips play a game together, Van Dijk and Konate play together just twice, which is what I would argue is their best centre-back pairing, have played together just twice in the Premier League. We've also seen Konate and Matip play together once, Konate and Gomez play together twice, and Gomez and Matip play together twice as well. There's a clear problem in this defence. They don't know each other's game. And this is where it is a bit harsh on Klopp, and I was talking about it at the start. One of the issues is injuries. He can't really help that. He just hasn't been able to get a consistent defence. Gomez and Van Dijk has been the most consistent, and Joe Gomez just isn't as good as Konate, unfortunately. I think a few years ago he had a lot of potential, but basically didn't play enough. Konate in this team instantly makes a difference. And speaking of making a difference, I want to talk about some very quick potential solutions, because one thing I would say to Liverpool fans is it's bad at the moment, right? I get it. We just watched that Real Madrid game the other night. It is bad at the moment. However, my opinion always in football is that it is never as good as it looks, and it is never as bad as it looks. You're always only a few tweaks away with a squad as talented as Liverpool's. You're always only a few tweaks away, a few signings away from being back. So let's look at how Liverpool can rediscover some of their form. So before we continue with the video, I want to talk to you guys about where I got this shirt from. And you probably guessed it, jerseyfifa.com. They have kindly sponsored today's video and also sent me a load of free shirts for me to check out myself. And I can now really vouch for the quality of these products. They have loads of shirts to offer on the website. So if you are interested, head to the link in the description down below and check out Jersey FIFA for yourself. So for me, one of the easiest ways for Liverpool to rediscover their old form is to go back to a bit of an old tactic. And this is when their squad is fully fit. This is what I would go for, this 11-4-3-3. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, get them high and wide again. They are two of the best creative fullbacks that the Premier League, but the world of football has ever seen. The numbers that these two have produced are absolutely absurd. We just haven't seen it in the past 6 months or so. It hasn't been happening. So get these fullbacks bombing forward again. To do this, you need a midfield which is going to be quite workmanlike, which means I think you have to take Thiago out the side, which is unfortunate. I just don't think he suits the system. And we have started to see this in recent weeks with Bajicic playing in midfield. On the ball, I think he is still a little bit naive and he needs to improve. However, in terms of as a profile, as a player, I think he's quite exciting. But in terms of this current Liverpool setup just for the rest of the season, you're playing him in here for his energy, his ball winning ability. Being 6 foot tall, he does have those long legs which stretch out and win tackles. That's what Liverpool need. So a Fabinho, Bajicic and Henderson midfield get lots of energy on the ball for more defensive reasons. However, in terms of back to on the ball, with the fullbacks bombing forward, it means that the wingers can come inside. And for me, the wingers should be Cody Gakpo and Salah. The reason for this is quite simple. Salah playing as an inverted winger or an inside forward is absolutely deadly. He proved it 3 or 4 seasons in a row. Is he as good as he was then? Perhaps not. Perhaps he has fallen off a little bit because of his age. However, I still think if you get him in a narrow position in his areas, in and around the box, he can be absolutely lethal. As for on the other side, Cody Gakpo. Now, in recent weeks, Jurgen Klopp has used Darwin Núñez in this position. I think it suits Gakpo way more. I think his best position on the football pitch is as an inside forward, where he can get more touches of the ball, show more of his dribbling. He's attacking towards defenders rather than playing with his back to goal. I just think it suits him a lot more. And what it also does is it allows you to get Darwin Núñez up front. And the main reason I want to do this is because of the crossing ability of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. Now, we saw Darwin Núñez in the game against Real Madrid early on, score that flick from the cross into the box. Darwin Núñez gets across the front post, flicks it into the goal. That's what Darwin Núñez brings. Compared to Gakpo, he just has a striker instinct. So get him in the box. And if these crosses are coming in from wide areas, from Trent and from Andrew Robertson, have someone in there that's going to attack them. Gakpo in the box doesn't want to attack crosses, that's not his game. Get Darwin Núñez in there. I think, genuinely, a change as simple as this. You're moving Salah a bit narrower, you're pushing Alexander-Arnold a bit higher down the wing, you're swapping Gakpo and Núñez. I think this would instantly really improve Liverpool's play on the ball. Play quick football, get the ball moving forward, nice and direct, nice and quick through the lines, get it moving forward. Get into these areas where your fullbacks can be involved in the attack. Your two inside forwards are very, very dangerous, both capable of scoring a lot of goals. And then Darwin Núñez, who, if he sharpens up his finishing, I think has the striker instinct to get himself a lot of goals in the second half of the season. What this change in shape also does is it improves Liverpool's rest defence. You now have Salah playing more central, which means in terms of the counter press, he's in a better area where he can quickly affect the ball when Liverpool lose the possession. Now, in terms of this department, I still think Darwin Núñez and Gakpo need coaching. I don't think at the moment they are good enough at counter pressing. However, You know, this is the problem that Liverpool have got. They spent over 100 million on these two. You've got to find a way to fit them into the system. So they need to be coached well by Jurgen Klopp, and I do think they will be. The other thing you have is that you now don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. Instead, you have Jordan Henderson, Fabinho and Bajicic, which means that in terms of counter-pressing, Liverpool now have a much more combative midfield. Now, just to clear that up, I'm not saying Trent Alexander-Arnold plays as a midfielder at the moment, but in possession he's often tucking in, which means when you lose the ball, he defends central. Instead, keep him wide and let these combative midfielders win the ball in the middle of the park. It makes the counter-press so much better. And then, ideally, you're protecting Van Dijk and Konate much more because you're winning the ball back so much higher up the pitch, which means they have much less defending to do at the back, which means Alisson has less work to do, who, to be fair, we haven't even spoken about Alisson, has been absolutely brilliant again this season. He's saved about 8 XG, more than what he would have been expected, so Liverpool's situation could be even worse if it weren't for Alisson. But ideally, Liverpool need to reduce the work that Fabinho is doing, which therefore reduces the work which Van Dijk and Konate are doing, which therefore reduces the work that Alisson has to do. All around, this simple change would improve Liverpool. However, it doesn't fix them completely, because if you look at that 11, it doesn't look like a world-beating 11 to me at the moment. Again, Bajicic, I think, has a lot of potential, but right now he's very raw still, so probably isn't a Champions League level player at the moment. And as for Jordan Henderson, unfortunately, he has passed his best. He's had a very good career, been a very good player for Liverpool, will retire as a Liverpool legend eventually. However, at the moment, he's just not what he once was. So Liverpool do need to sort out their recruitment as well. And this is probably where I worry for Liverpool a bit more, because we know there's a lot of problems going on. We know they lost their sporting director, they've lost a lot of people higher up the club, a lot of turmoil, a lot of people falling out supposedly, even from the physios and the sports scientists earlier in the season, reportedly falling out with each other. This is where I'm more concerned as if I was a Liverpool fan. That's where my concerns would lie. On the pitch, I think Jurgen Klopp will get it back and sorted. I think the problem is he going to be given the right players? Because again, this isn't right. This starting 11 isn't going to get them quite where they need to be. They need 2 new midfielders. Now, one midfielder that I would suggest is Manuel Ugarte. Now, I'm just for now going to give you the name. I'm going to give you nothing more than that. I'm not going to tell you anything about him as a player because I will be doing a scout report on him in the next few days or so. So make sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss that video. I'll be talking about him as a player and a few different clubs that he could move to, with Liverpool certainly being one of them. But that's the sort of signing that Liverpool need to get back to. Signing those players for around £40 million, maybe a little less if you can, from these leagues, from these clubs where they're not as heavily well known in Europe. Sporting aren't a team which everyone talks about, they're great players. Sign someone like Ugarte, get him in the midfield, a ball-winning midfielder. In this Liverpool midfield, ideally another ball-winning midfielder that is also good in possession as well. Make this Liverpool team back to basics a little bit. Get the Jurgen Klopp identity back. At the moment, what he's trying to do is he's trying to do it as high press with players out of position, Salah too wide to high press, Trent Alexander-Arnold too narrow to be pressing, a midfield which doesn't really have the legs anymore to be pressing. It's just wrong at the moment. Get the identity back in this team, get a couple of ball-winning midfielders, get the fullbacks back playing high and wide in the final third, get the wingers nice and close to your striker, and I think Liverpool will be alright. I think in 12 months' time we will be talking about a very different Liverpool side, but these are basically the problems they've been facing this season. And like I said, I think it's really basic. I think there are simple things which Klopp is getting wrong, but also he has not been helped by injuries at all. The recruitment at the club hasn't been good enough. Hopefully, for Liverpool's point of view, that will change in the next 12 months or so, but basically, we're going to have to wait and see. It's an interesting time if you're a Liverpool fan. If you are a Liverpool fan, get in the comments down below and let me know what you think is going wrong. What do you think is going wrong behind the scenes, higher up the club? Of course, you've got the whole sale of the club in discussion at the moment, so let me know what you think is going on there. In terms of recent recruitment, what do you think has been the problem? What do you think the good parts have been as well? Because there have been good signings. What do you think is the current tactical issue? For me, I think this right side dynamic with Trent Alexander-Arnold inverting so much doesn't quite work in my opinion, and I think Nunes and Gakpo are the wrong way around. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, sorry, not in the description. All of that, let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching, I hope you have enjoyed the video, and as always, I will see you in the next one.